It began with a journal, not leather-bound or ornate, but cheap, water-stained, its spine cracked like the ribs of a ghost. It sat for years in the back room of Hartwell's Books, a crumbling shop in Port Haven, Maine, a town where fog smothers the streets by dawn and secrets rot like unclaimed mail. The first page was dated October 12th, 2015, but the handwriting trembled as if the author had carved the words with a rusted blade. I don't know your name yet, but I already know I'll ruin you. Who wrote this? A lover, a killer, or someone lost between those extremes? Turn the page and the entries spiral, obsessive, poetic, unhinged. I dreamt of you last night. You were standing on the pier, but your face, it wasn't yours, it was his. Who is he, and why does the author switch halfway through from ink to what forensics later confirmed was blood? This journal became a cult relic, passed among morbid collectors, until a college student named Lucas Mercer bought it for $3.50, unaware it was a love letter and a warning meant for him. But how? The journal predated his birth, or so he thought, because Lucas Mercer, you see, was born on October 12th, 1999, the same day the author of this journal vanished. Waves crash, seagulls scream, wind howls. Port Haven is a town that eats its young. Its lighthouse has been dark since 1987. Its docks sag like broken teeth, and its children flee the moment they turn 18. But Lucas stayed. He stayed because his mother was sick. He stayed because his father drowned in a fishing accident when Lucas was 4. He stayed until she arrived, Amara Voss, 17 with a laugh like shattered glass and eyes that reflected nothing. She came in September 2015, claiming to be a transfer student, but she had no records, no past, no family, just a sketchbook and a habit of wandering the cliffs at midnight. Lucas first saw her on the pier, tearing pages from that sketchbook, each one a charcoal drawing of a man's face, sometimes smiling, sometimes screaming, but always familiar. When Lucas asked why she was destroying them, she said, "They're not mine. They're his, and he's coming back." That night, Lucas stole a discarded page from the rocks. It depicted a man drowning, his hand outstretched toward a lighthouse, with a child's face superimposed on the waves. The child was Lucas. But how? He'd never met Amara. He'd never left Maine. Yet here was his face, drawn in strokes so precise they could only come from memory. When he confronted her, she pressed a finger to his lips and whispered, "You'll understand when the lighthouse wakes up." The next morning, the town awoke to smoke. The old lighthouse, abandoned for decades, was burning. And Amara, gone. No note, no goodbye. Just a single rose left on Lucas's doorstep, its petals blackened at the edges, as if held too close to a flame. A clock ticks. A heartbeat pulses beneath faint, dissonant strings. Lucas spent months unraveling Amara's lies. The school had no record of her enrollment. The address she'd given led to an empty lot. Even her name was a fiction. A search for Amara Voss turned up a gravestone in New Mexico dated 1972. But then, the letters began. Postmarked from different cities, Chicago, Miami, Seattle, each containing a Polaroid. Amara smiling in front of landmarks, but always with a shadowy figure lurking behind her. The notes were cryptic. "They're watching. Don't trust the roses. The lighthouse wasn't an accident. Find the boy in the painting." Lucas fell into obsession. He dropped out of community college. He sold his mother's jewelry to fund his search. He even tracked down the last person to see Amara before Port Haven, a truck driver who'd given her a ride to Boston. "She kept talking about a debt," he said she'd sold her soul to the wrong devil. But the devil's name? The truck driver couldn't recall until Lucas showed him a photo of his late father. "Yeah," the man muttered. "That's the face she drew in her notebook, over and over, like she was trying to erase it." But Lucas's father died in 2003. Amara would have been 8 years old. How did she know him? Why draw him? Why did her sketches show him younger? As Lucas dug deeper, he found a 1998 news clipping. A man matching his father's description was arrested in Miami for fraud. The name? Michael Voss. Amara's surname. Coincidence or a clue? The answer came in a voicemail on Lucas's 21st birthday. A distorted voice. She's not who you think. Stop looking or you'll end up like your father. Click. The call traced to a burner phone. In Port Haven. Pages flip. A pen scratches. Rain hammers windows. In 2019, Lucas received a package. No return address. Inside, Amara's journal. Not the one from Hartwell's books, but a newer one. Its entries began in 2016, 3 years after she'd vanished. I'm sorry, Lucas. I tried to outrun them, but they're in my blood now. The journal detailed a cult-like group called the Lamplighters, obsessed with resurrecting the dead through vessels, people born under specific eclipses. Lucas, born during the 1999 Lionsgate eclipse, was a prime candidate. Amara's role? To assess him, to groom him, to prepare him. But she fell in love. I won't let them take you, she wrote, even if it means becoming the monster they want. The entries grew frantic. She described a ritual site, a lighthouse in Chile, where members communed with shadows. She mentioned a man named Silas, her handler, who'd killed her parents to bind her to the group. And then, a final entry. I'm going back to Port Haven to end it. If you're reading this, I've failed. Burn this journal. Forget my name. But if you dare, follow the lilies. Lucas didn't burn it. He followed the clue. Lilies led him to a florist in New Orleans who recognized Amara's photo. She bought black lilies every October, the florist said. Said they were for a grave, but never said whose. Lucas tracked the lilies to a cemetery plot, unnamed, dated October 12, 1999, the day he was born. Under the soil, he found a lockbox. Inside, a newborn's hospital bracelet, Baby Boy Mercer. And a note, they replaced you. Run. A violin crescendos, then fractures into static. Paris, 2022. Lucas, now a freelance photographer, stumbled into a gallery near the Seine. The exhibit? Echoes of the unseen. One piece stopped him cold. A oil painting of a boy on a pier, his back turned, a journal clutched in his hand. The style was Amara's. The title, Until I Hold You Again. The gallery owner claimed the artist was anonymous, paid in cash, but Lucas noticed something. The boy's shadow didn't match his body. It stretched into the shape of a woman. Amara. He hired a forensic artist to analyze the paint. The results? Traces of salt water, sediment from the Maine coast, and human blood. Type AB negative. Amara's type. That night, Lucas received an email. No text, just an audio file. A woman's voice, weak but unmistakable. Lucas, the lighthouse. It's not a place. It's a person. You. Then gunshots, a scream. Silence. The audio's metadata held coordinates. 47 degrees north, 70 degrees west. The middle of the Gulf of St. Lawrence. A place with no land, no lighthouses. Just open water and a single decades-old shipwreck. The SS Lamplighter sunk in 1999. On October 12th, Lucas's birthday, the day the journal's author vanished, the day Amara Voss began her mission, the day everything began. But is this the end or a loop? A voice in the static seems to answer. Find me where the lilies drown. And so the boy on the pier becomes the hunter. Thunder cracks. Rain hammers like bullets on metal. A ship's horn groans in the distance. The coordinates led Lucas to the Gulf of St. Lawrence, where the sea swallows secrets whole. He chartered a rusted trawler captained by a man named Elias, whose grandfather had sailed the SS Lamplighter before it vanished. That ship was cursed, Elias muttered. Carried something they shouldn't have. Not cargo, not gold. People. Lucas pressed. What people? But Elias only pointed to the horizon. You'll see. And see he did. 12 hours into the voyage, sonar pinged a structure below. Not a shipwreck, but a building. Its stone walls barnacled, its roof crowned with a skeletal lighthouse. Submerged. Impossible. Yet there it stood, a drowned monument. Lucas dove. The water, black as oil, yielded a door with a rusted plaque. The Lamplighter's Sanctuary. Establishment 1965. Inside, air pockets trapped decades of rot. A desk floated, anchored by chains. Its drawer held a photograph. A young Amara, no older than 10, standing beside a man in a priest collar. The caption, Initiation. Subject A, V compliant. Behind them, a mural of an eclipse in a crib. Lucas's breath faltered. Carved into the crib's headboard, Lucas Mercer. Vessel 12. The answer surfaced in a waterlogged journal nearby. The chosen must reunite with their shadow, flesh to flesh, blood to blood. Only then will the gate open. Lucas's shadow, Amara, or the cult's gate, a portal to what? Before he could surface, the trawler's engine exploded above. Elias screamed. The sanctuary trembled, and Lucas sank. A heartbeat echoes. A fetal monitor flatlines. They pulled Lucas from the water 3 days later, half dead on a Newfoundland beach. In his fist, the photo of Amara and the priest. A local nun recognized the man, Father Silas. She spat. He ran a home for wayward girls here in the 90s. Closed after incident. Lucas pressed. What incidents? The nun's voice dropped. Girls claiming they'd given birth to ghosts, babies that age years and days. Monsters. Lucas's DNA test results arrived that week. His parents? Not his parents. His true lineage traced to a fertility clinic in Reykjavik, shuttered in 1999 after allegations of experiments. Embryos engineered with donor DNA, including samples from Javier Rosa and Michael Voss, Amara's father. Lucas was no accident. He was designed. A bridge between bloodlines. The cult's journal entry from 1998 confirmed it. The vessel must unite the Rosa and Voss lines. Only their child can anchor the gate. Child? Lucas had no children, but Amara. Amara vanished for 9 months in 2016. When Lucas tracked her Parisian landlord, he learned she'd rented a bassinet. She left in the night, the landlord said. Left a note. Tell him I'm sorry. Tell who Lucas, or the child. That night, Lucas received a parcel. Inside, a toddler's blanket, monogrammed L.A. Lucas and Amara, or Lucas Amara. His hands shook. A hair was tangled in the fabric. Blonde, his shade. The DNA match? 99.9% paternal. Lucas had a son the cult would kill to claim. Static hisses. A dial tone pulses like a dying pulse. Call came at 3:33 a.m. A child's voice. Daddy, they're hurting Mommy. Then Amara's scream. Lucas, don't. Gunfire. Silence. Lucas traced the signal to a derelict radio tower in the Nevada desert. Inside, he found a nursery. Toys, a crib, walls splattered with equations. Temporal decay rate equals 7.2 per year. Gate stability requires dual anchors. And a map of the world marked with dates. Port Haven, 1999. Reykjavik, 2015. Nevada, 2023. They were physicists, obsessed with a theory. Time is a lighthouse. Its beam can be redirected, bent, rewritten. Amara and Lucas weren't lovers. They were equations. Their son, conceived under an eclipse, was the key to stabilizing a temporal rift, a gate hidden beneath the Nevada site. Lucas's head spun, but then a whimper. Behind a locked door, a boy, 3 years old with Amara's eyes. You came, the boy whispered. Mommy said you'd forget. Lucas reached for him, but the door slammed. A voice boomed from speakers. She lied to you, Lucas. She's not the victim. She's the architect. Surveillance footage played. Amara, in a lab coat, adjusting machinery, date stamped our 2005, when she'd have been 13. You've been her experiment all along, the voice sneered. Lucas collapsed, but the boy's whisper cut through. Daddy, the lilies. Remember the lilies? Lilies, the cemetery, the lockbox. They replaced you. Lucas's phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. The boy isn't yours. He's theirs. Run. Fire roars, water cascades. A child sings a lullaby. Lucas fled Nevada with the boy, who clung to him, humming a tune Amara used to sing. Where's Mommy? He asked. Lucas didn't know, but the cult did. They chased him, black SUVs, drones, men with no faces. Lucas's only refuge? Port Haven. The town, now a ghost of itself, greeted him with sleet and silence. He broke into his childhood home. Under the floorboards, he found a VHS tape labeled, For Lucas. His mother's voice quavered on screen. If you're watching this, they found us. We stole you from the clinic. You were screaming. They said you were wrong, but you were perfect. Amara came to us in 2015, begged us to hide you. She said she'd fix it. Forgive her. Forgive me. The screen dissolved to static. Behind Lucas, a match struck. Amara stood in the doorway, her face gaunt, a scar slicing her cheek. They took our son, she said. But he's not ours. He's a copy, a loop. She explained. The cult had mastered cloning, splicing DNA across time. Their son was a replica of Lucas's childhood self, a failsafe to reopen the gate if Lucas resisted. The fire at the lighthouse. That was me, she confessed. I tried to burn the gate, but it needs a sacrifice, a life, for a life. Lucas recoiled. You used me. Amara wept. I fell in love. That wasn't part of the plan. Outside, engines growled. The cult had found them. Amara pressed a key into Lucas's hand. Go to the cliffs. Find the door. End this. Then she kissed him, a kiss that tasted like salt and endings, and stepped into the night. A gunshot. Silence. Lucas ran. The boy followed, clutching a stuffed bear. Daddy, I'm scared. Lucas whispered. So am I. A music box winds down. Waves recede. The key opened a door in the cliffs, hidden since Port Haven's founding. Inside, a chamber lined with mirrors reflecting. Other times, a younger Amara scribbling equations. An older Lucas bleeding on a pier. Their son, aged 20, weeping over a grave. At the room's center stood a machine, a spire of gears and wires, pulsing with blue light. The gate. The boy touched it. It's singing, he said. Lucas hesitated. Destroy it. And Amara's sacrifice meant nothing. Activate. But the cult stormed the chamber. Their leader, Father Silas, aimed a gun. You're too late. The gate opens at dawn. Lucas lunged. The gun fired. The boy screamed. And the machine awoke. Light swallowed the room. Lucas's final memory. Amara's voice echoing from nowhere and everywhere. Find me where the lilies drown. When the light faded, the chamber was empty. No cult, no machine, no boy. Just Lucas, alone on Port Haven's pier, a journal in his hand. The first journal. October 12th, 2015. I don't know your name yet, but I already know I'll ruin you. He flipped to the last page. New writing. You didn't ruin me. You freed me. Wait for me at the lighthouse. Lucas looked up. The lighthouse, long burned, now stood whole, its beam cutting the fog. And there at its base, a figure. Hair like midnight, eyes that held storms. Amara, or a shadow, a ghost, a loop reset. Lucas ran. The beam blinded him. When it cleared, the pier was empty. But in his pocket, a new key. And far out at sea, a child's laughter. Love, it seems, is not a moment. It's a collision of the past and future, of truth and lies. And somewhere in the space between ticks of the clock, Amara is waiting.